Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today, well, let's just say we're going to Siberia in 1908.
Yeah, Siberia, 1908, the Tunguska Event. It's one for the history books, that's for sure.
Definitely. An explosion so big it flattened something like 800 square miles of forest.
800 square miles. I think it's like 15 times the size of Washington, D.C. Just gone.
And get this, no impact crater. That's what always gets me about this whole thing.
That's the real head scratcher. A massive explosion, but no crater. It doesn't really add up, does it? At least not in the way we usually think about impacts.
That's why we're here, right?
Yeah.
We've got eyewitness accounts, scientific studies, even some more creative explanations.
Exactly. We're going to dive into all of it, try to figure out, what really happened in Tunguska.
So let's paint a picture for everyone. Siberia in 1908. It wasn't exactly a bustling metropolis.
No, not at all. Vast. Sparsely populated, mostly the taiga, those dense cold forests.
Right, the taiga, home to the Evenki people who, well, they lived pretty much in tune with nature.
Reliant on the land, the seasons. It wasn't like a big city where news would travel fast.
Yeah, their world is pretty isolated. And then June 30th, 1908, everything changes.
Everything changes. Eyewitnesses talked about a blinding flash, like the whole sky lit up.
And then this column of fire shooting up into the air.
And then boom, an explosion that literally shook the ground for hundreds of miles.
Can you imagine? Trees snapping like twigs, people getting knocked off their feet.
The heat, it must have been scorching, just intense heat radiating out.
It sounds apocalyptic.
It does, doesn't it? It's a picture of total devastation, and yet no impact crater.
That's what separates Tunguska from, your typical asteroid impact.
Exactly, that missing crater. It tells us that whatever happened here, it didn't behave like a normal space rock slamming into the Earth.
So if not an asteroid, then what? I mean, the first scientific expedition to the site, they didn't even get there until 1927.
Yeah, almost 20 years later, led by Leonid Kulik, a Soviet mineralogist. It was quite a journey, I can imagine.
Getting to that remote area in the 1920s must have been incredibly challenging.
It was, but he was determined. And when he got there, what did he find? Well, the signs of a massive explosion were obvious.
The flattened trees, right, all pointing outwards like a giant compass.
Exactly. Millions of trees all knocked down in this radial pattern. It was clear something huge had happened.
The no crater, right.
Still no crater. And get this, no big chunks of meteorite either. It's like the more you dig into this, the stranger it gets.
All right, so let's talk theories. The one most scientists agree on is, an airburst.
An airburst, yes. The idea is that a space object, either a meteorite or a comet, came into the atmosphere but exploded before it could hit the ground.
So picture this huge explosion high above the ground. But how would that cause so much damage down below?
Well, we're talking about a huge amount of energy. Estimates put it at maybe 10 to 15 megatons of TNT.
Whoa. And for context, that's like over 1,000 times the power of the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima.
Exactly. So that kind of shockwave, it would be more than enough to flatten trees and scorch the earth for miles around.
Yeah, that would definitely do it. But if it exploded in the air, wouldn't there be, some pieces left over? Shouldn't we have found something?
Well, that's where things get even more interesting. The composition of the object matters.
Like, was it rock or ice? Does that make a difference?
It makes a big difference. If it was a rocky meteorite, yeah, we'd expect to find fragments. But if it was a comet, mostly ice and dust, it might have vaporized completely in the explosion.
So like a cosmic disappearing act.
Pretty much. That's why scientists are still looking for fragments even today. Those fragments could hold the key to finally solving the Tunguska mystery.
But let's be honest, the airburst theory isn't the only one out there.
Oh, no, not at all. The Tunguska event has sort of become this breeding ground for all kinds of theories. Some are scientifically plausible, some are pretty out there.
Let's get into some of those. Where should we start?
Well, if you want to talk out there, you got to mention the one about Nikola Tesla's death ray.
Oh, yeah. Good old Tesla. Always a popular suspect when strange things happen.
Right. The idea is that he was messing around with some super powerful energy weapon and whoops, accidentally caused Tunguska.
The guy was brilliant, no doubt. But an explosion that big.
Yeah, that's the catch with this one. As far as we know, Tesla never actually built a weapon like that.
So it's more of a, blame it on the genius kind of situation.
Pretty much. It's a fun idea, don't get me wrong. But there's just no real evidence to back it up.
All right, well, if not Tesla, then maybe.
Yeah.
Aliens.
Oh, of course. You can't have a mystery like this without aliens showing up.
Right. Spaceship crashes in Siberia. explains the explosion, the lack of a crater. It kind of fits, right?
Kind of fits, yeah. But again, where's the proof? No spaceship wreckage, no little green men running around.
It's more a reflection of our, I don't know, our fascination with the unknown
Mm.
than a real explanation.
I'd say so. We love a good alien story, but science needs more than just a good story.
Okay, so we've ruled out Tesla and aliens. What about something more, I don't know, down to earth, like a natural gas explosion, maybe?
That's one that comes up a lot. The idea is that a huge pocket of methane gas ignited underground.
And methane is flammable, right? So I guess a big enough explosion could, do some serious damage.
The problem is the geology of the Tunguska region doesn't really support that idea.
So while it's plausible, it doesn't quite line up with what we know about the area.
That seems to be a theme with Tunguska. Lots of interesting ideas, but the evidence is often lacking.
It's like trying to solve a puzzle with half the pieces missing.
Speaking of missing pieces, there's another aspect of this whole thing we haven't touched on yet. The people who actually lived there.
Oh, right. The Evenki people. We can't forget about them.
These were people who lived in harmony with nature, and then this massive event happens right in their backyard.
I mean, imagine that. Seeing the sky light up, feeling the ground shake, and then witnessing the forest just, I don't know, just vanish.
It must have been terrifying. And without any scientific explanation, they turned to their own beliefs, their own stories.
It's only natural, right? When you can't explain something, you look for answers in your culture, your spirituality.
Exactly. The Tunguska event became woven into their folklore, their mythology. It became part of who they are.
And those stories, they give us a unique perspective, don't they? A glimpse into how this event impacted the people who experienced it firsthand.
It's a reminder that the same event can be viewed through different lenses, and each lens offers a valuable piece of the puzzle.
And speaking of different lenses, let's talk about how scientists have tried to figure out what happened. I mean, what kind of tools do they use to investigate something like this?
Well, technology has played a huge role. We're talking satellite imagery, LiDAR, things like that.
LiDAR, that's the one that uses lasers, right?
Yep.
To create those 3D maps.
Yep, that's it. They use it to map the terrain, look for potential impact sites, even study the growth patterns of trees.
So, like, using lasers to look back in time.
Pretty much. It gives us a level of detail that just wouldn't have been possible before.
What about other techniques? I mean, what else do scientists use?
Well, there's seismic analysis, for example, that's looking at the waves generated by earthquakes and other events.
And those waves, they can tell us something about what happened in the past.
Exactly. By studying the seismic data from around the time of the Tunguska event, we can get a better idea of the energy released, the nature of the explosion.
It's like the Earth itself is keeping a record of what happened.
It really is, and it's up to us to try to read that record.
Oh, all this high-tech stuff, that's amazing. But are scientists still looking for, actual pieces of whatever caused the explosion?
Oh, absolutely. The hunt for fragments is still on. They're analyzing soil samples, water samples, anything that might contain a trace of the object.
So it's a combination of, I don't know, cutting-edge technology and good old-fashioned detective work.
That's a good way to put it. And the reason they keep looking is that even a tiny fragment, that could be the definitive proof we need.
Yeah, that would change everything.
It would. But even without those fragments, we've learned a lot about Tunguska. We've explored the theories, the impact on the people who live there, the scientific research.
But there's one more piece of the puzzle, isn't there?
Yeah.
The global shock waves of this event.
Exactly. And I'm not just talking about the physical shock waves.
What do you mean?
Well, think about it. This event happened in a remote corner of Siberia, but it had ripples across the entire world.
Like how so?
The explosion itself, it was so powerful that it was felt for hundreds of miles. People were knocked off their feet as far away as England.
Really? That's incredible.
It is. And it wasn't just physical. It shook the scientific community, too. It made people realize that, we're not immune to these kinds of events.
Like a wake-up call from the cosmos saying, hey, things can happen that you can't even imagine.
Exactly. And it wasn't just scientists. The Tunguska event captured the public imagination, too. It inspired books, movies, even video games.
It became this cultural touchstone, the symbol of the unknown and the unexplained.
Right. And that's part of what makes it so fascinating even today. It's a story that continues to evolve, to be retold and reinterpreted.
So it's not just about solving a scientific mystery. It's about exploring the impact, the meaning, the way this event has shaped our understanding of ourselves and the universe.
Well said. And that exploration, that's what we're all about, isn't it?
Welcome back to The Deep Dive. We've been on this wild ride through the Tunguska event, haven't we? Talking about everything from exploding space rocks to, well, some pretty out there ideas.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground. Meteors, Tesla's death ray, even a black hole zipping through the Earth.
But we promised to get into the really unconventional stuff. The stuff that's, I don't know, almost science fiction.
Right, the fringe theories, the ones that really make you think, what if?
So let's dive in. I think the most popular one, the one that always comes up, is aliens.
Oh, definitely. It's got to be aliens, right. A UFO crashes in Siberia, boom, mystery solved. At least that's what some people think.
It's a cool image. A spaceship coming down in the middle of nowhere, causing this huge explosion. But is there actually any evidence for it?
That's the thing with a lot of these theories. The evidence is, let's just say it's open to interpretation. Lots of could be and maybe.
So, no glowing wreckage. No little green men running around.
Not that we know of, but people who believe in the alien theory point to the lack of an impact crater, the way the trees were flattened.
They say it looks too, I don't know, too organized for a normal explosion.
Like it was planned almost, a controlled detonation instead of a random impact.
I get it. Aliens are cool. But without any hard proof, it's all just speculation, isn't it?
I'd say so, yeah.
Yeah.
Fun to think about, but not really something science can work with.
Okay, so no aliens. But what about secret experiments? Could some government be testing something they shouldn't have?
Ah, yeah, the government conspiracy angle. Always a classic.
Especially during the Cold War. I mean, everyone was testing new weapons.
Right. And there's always the possibility of an accident, something going wrong, and then a cover-up.
People point to that, the secrecy surrounding government research.
Yeah, it's not impossible. But again, without any solid evidence, it's just a theory.
So aliens are out, secret experiments are probably not it. What else is there?
Well, there's antimatter. That one gets pretty wild.
Antimatter. Okay, remind me what that is again.
So basically, it's the opposite of regular matter. And when antimatter meets matter, they annihilate each other. Big explosion.
Ah, okay, I remember. So the theory is that some chunk of antimatter hit Earth.
That's the idea. A cosmic antimatter bomb, basically. Except, well, there's a problem.
What's that?
We don't really know where antimatter even comes from in those kinds of quantities, and we haven't seen any evidence of it anywhere near us.
So it's not impossible, but it's not very likely either.
Exactly. Then there's the black hole theory.
A black hole. Like one of those things that swallows everything. In Siberia.
Yeah, but not a big one. The theory is that a tiny black hole, maybe the size of an atom, passed right through the Earth.
Whoa. So it just zipped through the planet and caused the Tunguska Event on its way out.
Something like that. The problem is, if a black hole went through the Earth, we'd probably have noticed some other effects.
Like what?
Gravitational changes, earthquakes, stuff like that. It wouldn't have been subtle.
So probably not a black hole then. What else have we got?
There are a few more, but they get even more speculative. Natural nuclear explosions, weird comets made of metal, even messages from aliens.
Wow. It seems like Tunguska has become this, I don't know, this blank slate for people to project their ideas onto.
That's a good way to put it. It's a mystery that makes you think, makes you wonder what's really possible.
So after all of this, all the science, all the wild theories, what do you think? What caused Tunguska?
Honestly, I think the most likely explanation is still the airburst, a meteor or a comet exploding in the atmosphere.
It's not as exciting as aliens or black holes, but it makes the most sense, doesn't it?
It does. It fits the evidence, it fits what we know about physics, and it explains why there's no impact crater.
Plus, even if it wasn't a UFO or a secret weapon, it's still an incredible event.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's a reminder that our planet is part of a bigger system, and that system can be pretty unpredictable.
It makes you realize we still have a lot to learn about the universe.
We do, and that's what's so exciting. There's always more to discover, more to explore.
Well, we've certainly explored a lot today. The Tunguska Event, over 100 years later, and it still has us scratching our heads.
It's a mystery that keeps on giving. And who knows, maybe one day we'll finally have all the answers.
But until then, the speculation, the theories, the what-ifs, that's part of the fun, isn't it?
It is. It keeps the curiosity alive.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you enjoyed it. And if you have any thoughts on what caused the Tunguska Event, let us know in the comments.
We'd love to hear your theories.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep looking up.